Hi YouTube, how are you doing? And welcome to the Phasmophobia item tier list. Now, again, there's going to be a huge patch really soon, which might change up some of these items, which is exactly why I wanted to do a tier list right now. We've already done a ghost tier list, and there will be a map tier list coming soon. I just want to record my opinion on all these different items. We've been playing with them for about 1 year now. This has been how we all got to know Phasmophobia, and I want to document for the ages what was Phasmophobia like in early access, what was my opinion on all the items. I will explain all about them, all the different things you can do with the items, and why I will rank them in a specific tier. So I hope you play along. You can play along. I'll link the tier list in the description. Chat here will also vote on what they think an item should go in, but ultimately it will be my list, and I will decide where the item goes, where the item ends up. But yeah, I hope you're gonna enjoy. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop into the tier list. Let's quickly explain what each of the tiers mean. S tier is absolute must use. This will either be like super strong items with a lot of different uses, or basically required items that you will use every single game, and you're just like being a dumbass if you don't use them. A tier will be very strong, either safety items or very strong equipment items with a lot of different uses. Not quite S tier, but definitely very strong, often used every game. B tier will be like middle in the middle mode, where you have the somewhat average equipment items, maybe some stronger secondary items that don't give you immediate evidence, but that are pretty useful and that have a lot of different uses. C tier will be slightly better than garbage. They're usually secondary items or sometimes bad evidence items that have only very few uses. You don't necessarily have to use them at all, but they're not quite complete trash, because D tier is going to be ultimate trash, where those items you really never use, you never have to use at all. They have barely any use whatsoever, and sometimes are even bad to use. So yeah, that is kind of my idea for this. This will be a usefulness ranking. It will not be a fun ranking. I want to go with usefulness. I will also say which items are my favorite, but I will mostly rank them based on usefulness. So now that that is out of the way, let's move into the first item. I'm going to go just through them like this. The first item will be the writing book. Okay, so the writing book is a very simple piece of evidence. You place it in the room, and then if the ghost decides to write in it, it will write in it. And that is basically it. It doesn't have any other uses. You can't use it when the ghost is not a writing ghost. You can't use it when you can't use it outside of the ghost room or outside of the range of the ghost. It's just very simple. Doesn't have any secondary uses, but I think it's an evidence item, so it's usually strong. And I'm gonna put it like low B tier. I was thinking B or C on the writing book, but I mean, it's an evidence item, and it gives you something, one of the 6 evidences you need, and you need the writing book to get that evidence. You can get it by elimination, but if you want to know for sure, you need to use the writing book, so that's why I'm gonna land it in B tier. So let's see. We're going to go through this now. We're not going to sit on every item. If an item is simple, we're just going to move along. So let's see what chat thinks now. I'm curious to see. Oh, hey, it seems like we all agree. It seems like this is indeed a solid B tier, which I agree. B tier, 21% for A. C with 11%. S tier. S tier book. Oh, boy. So yeah, I think we all agree with that one. Let's move on to candles, which is the first very interesting item in my opinion. This might be where I will rank very differently from a lot of people. Either people that have just started playing this game, or like me, don't really use it too much. But honestly, if you purely look at the candle is an absolute A tier item. Now, that might sound crazy to you, but candle is the only item you can literally hold forever, and you can keep your sanity at 100%, never get hunted. The only chance of you getting hunted is like a very active yokai or a banshee or a very ghost event heavy demon. But if you want, you could never be hunted with a candle. You could legitimately keep your sanity, because what is the effect of a candle? If you hold it and it's on, again, I haven't said that before, but I'm gonna I'm gonna just assume you can turn them on. Of course, you need the lighter for this, but I'm not gonna say D tier because it's just a wax stick. No, I'm gonna assume that you can turn it on, obviously, otherwise this wouldn't really make a lot of sense. So it is probably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated items. You can hold it, and as you hold it, nothing will drain your sanity. The only thing that will drain your sanity is ghost events and special abilities like the Djinn or the Poltergeist throwing a bunch of items at the same time, which are generally very rare. Ghost events can happen quite a bit, so you can drop your sanity that way. But the fact that you kind of just have this option to not get hunted is insanely strong. Now, I personally almost never use them because they make the game go very slow. Sometimes you need to be hunted for some objectives, and you have to wait even longer if you've used a candle during the match. So I generally don't use them because I tend to play fast. But in terms of pure power, the candle was extremely strong. So I'm very curious what chat thinks on this one because it might be very different from my opinion. Let's see. Oh, I think it might have. I think we see the effect of. Me kind of, because obviously people are voting as I'm explaining this. The vote doesn't end before I explain it, and I think I've managed to convince a lot of people as well. That I mean, I think it's absolutely an A tier. Now you might not use it every game, but in terms of pure capabilities, this is so strong. So yeah, A tier, and then C tier is the second one. So it's not A, B, C. No, it's A tier or C tier. A lot of people voting C tier. Probably without, like, because they've never really used it, which I can totally respect. I also barely use it. Okay, let's move on to the second evidence item on the list, which is going to be EMF. Now, EMF is my go-to starting item to find the ghost room. This used to be thermo before they did the temperature changes. Now EMF is my absolute go-to to find the ghost room quick. As soon as you hear a noise, especially on a small map, you're pretty close to the noise generally, but you might not know exactly where it's coming from. And then the EMF comes in killer. You can hear the sound, go walk around where you think the general area of the sound was, and then if you get an EMF response, you know, oh, boom, I found it. I found the ghost room, or I found where the sound was coming from, and it gives you so much information, on top of it being an evidence item. Now, the evidence part of this item is actually quite weak, because as I'll, if I remember, there's going to be a video here where I explain you how you can read EMF 5 off of the activity chart in the truck. You don't need this item to get EMF 5. You can use the activity chart with the graph in the truck. You can use that to find out what if it's EMF 5 or not. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's, in my opinion, the strongest tracking tool that works on every single ghost. Something like a spirit box or other items won't work on every ghost because not every ghost has that evidence type, but every ghost will give EMF. Let me see. So yeah, for me, it's an A tier. Now I know you could say B because it's generally it's not necessary for the evidence, but just it being such a good tracking tool, like I use it every single game. It finds the ghost room for me almost all of the time. It is extremely strong, and I'm gonna put it A tier because of that. So I'm excited. I'm curious to think. I think this is gonna be B tier for chat. Let's see what they think. Whoa. Okay, I am very surprised by that vote. S tier. No, I don't. That's not an S tier for me, but definitely really strong. I mean, I praised the living heck out of this item. I thought people were gonna say B tier, honestly. Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Personally, the fact that you can read, maybe it could be S tier if you couldn't just use the activity chart to figure out if it was EMF or not. The evidence kind of being a non-factor here. I mean, it's still useful, but it's not required. Makes it not the strongest tool in my opinion. So I'm gonna leave it at A. That's my choice. I would be curious to know what you think over on YouTube. Would you agree with the chat, or do you agree with me? All right, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be Spirit Box, an absolute fan favorite item. I think a lot of people love the Spirit Box, me included, although it's not my like starting item, but I know there's a lot of people that start with Spirit Box, and I think it is very strong in a team setting, because not every ghost will have this evidence, obviously, but if you are with a team and one person has the thermo, another has the EMF, and one person has the Spirit Box, you can find the ghost room much quicker. And so it can be used very often. A lot of the ghosts, I think, do 7 ghosts. I'm not quite off the top of my head, but I think at least half of the ghosts have this evidence. So on half of the ghosts, you will be able to use this. Now, on the other half, it will be pretty much useless, besides one specific use that I'll explain in a little bit. But I still think it is extremely strong simply because of the fact that ghosts are now so roaming. There's so many roaming ghosts. The Spirit Box is the single best roaming ghost tracking tool that exists. You can basically follow the ghost around, ask where are you, and you will be able to kind of track its movement. Is it in a different room now? Is it in the ghost room still? Is it somewhere else? And that is extremely useful in the current meta where ghosts are sometimes just bounce out of existence and you have no idea where they are. You can grab your Spirit Box, figure out where it is, continue playing. It can be like vital in that scenario. Let me see. Another thing, which is what I said that always works, even on non-Spirit Box ghosts, is actually a trick that we recently found out in a video, is that you can basically put in any detectable phrase by the ghost, you can put into the Spirit Box. Something like, show yourself. You can ask that to, or like, let me say, do something, or hide, run, I'm scared, stuff like that. You can say that into the Spirit Box. Now, if it's not a question that the Spirit Box recognizes, it will never give you a response. Not even Spirit Box Ghost will give you a response if you say something like, I'm scared, or just another sentence that it recognizes. However, that if it says nothing detected, that means that it did detect something. It detected your phrase, because otherwise it wouldn't do anything. The numbers would just keep rolling. So you can actually use the nothing detected to figure out whether what you're saying is able to piss off the ghost. If you want to figure out new phrases and find if some weird combination of words can be used to piss off the ghost, grab your Spirit Box, talk into it in a dark room, and if your phrase gets the response nothing detected, that means it's either a Spirit Box question or a phrase you can use to piss off the ghost, which I think is very useful for long-term players that want to diversify their like vocabulary without just looking up the game code in a more immersive way. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, in my opinion, the Spirit Box, I know EMF is useful on every ghost. In my opinion, Spirit Box beats it. It is so useful for tracking. So many ghosts have it, in my opinion, an S tier. Now, I know it's not on every ghost, but just the fact that it's basically just makes the game so much easier against every ghost that has it is just amazing. Like, roaming is such a problem right now, and the fact that you can use the Spirit Box to completely, like, follow the ghost makes it a must-use if you have a ghost that, like, if you're dealing with a roaming Spirit Box ghost. It's so nice. I think people are gonna go A on this one, and I can see that, but for me, it's an S tier when you can use it. Let's see what people say, though. Oh my goodness, people are completely disagreeing. Interesting. I wasn't very hype on it, I gotta say, but this is surprising. B tier, people completely disagree. I can see A, but B tier? What are you guys doing with my boy? This thing is so useful. I am offended for my Spirit Box friends. I mean, I can see A. I can be persuaded for someone's list having Spirit Box on A, but putting it next to the freaking writing book? No. I'm keeping it on S tier. It's an S tier for me. I can see A again, but I'm keeping it S tier. That's just the way I've decided to go. Now, I know it doesn't work on half of the ghost, but it is just so strong if you can get a use out of it. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the UV light. Now, UV light, it gives evidence, and it can give you fingerprints, but it can also give you footsteps in combination with salt. If you place salt in the room and the ghost steps in it, and then you hear a bunch of stomping noises, you can shine your UV light on it. If you see UV footsteps, you know it's not a wraith. And if you don't see UV footsteps when you hear the stomping, then you know it's a wraith. So it can be very useful in that way. It can, in the case of a wraith, immediately give you the answer, but that's more on the power of the salt than it is on the power of the UV light, in my opinion. And technically, another thing that it is going for is that it's technically able to be used as a light source. You could, the like optimal pro build would be starting with like UV light and 2 other evidence items and not having an actual flashlight, but just using the UV light to roam around. Now, I would never do that because if I did that in YouTube videos, no one would be able to see anything because it's very hard to see. But you could technically do it, and trying it every once in a while is pretty fun to try like an optimal build. So I think it's a pretty strong item, but it's a fairly basic evidence item. And the fact that there's other items that are either required to like salt to make it useful, or the photo cam can also just do what the UV light does, or the glow sticks for that matter. I don't think it's A, but it's definitely just a solid equipment. It's a solid evidence item. It's just a strong B. Just a B for me. So I'm gonna put it in B. Let's see what people think. Oh, again, we're not going the same way. We're going somewhere else. Here we go. People say A on this one. Now, there's still 24% saying a B tier, but I don't know. Again, it doesn't, I guess because it's used as a light source, you could say you could just completely take over. Yeah, like you don't need a flashlight, but I never do that. And I also don't think it's like, especially during hunts, the light is so faint that it's like bound to get you killed. It's good at generating money, but you can just, as soon as you know it's a fingerprints ghost, every time it touches a door, you're fine. You can just take a photo of that door. You don't even have to use the UV light. And that's also more on this than it is on the UV, in my opinion, at least. So, oh yeah, end poll. People are still voting. I could see the fact that it gives light and you could use it if you're like if you are an avid UV light user as light source, I totally agree you putting it in A. Like, if you, on, like, a regular basis, use it in that way, you're a pro, in my opinion. Very well done. And I could see that A, but otherwise, I'm gonna leave it in B. Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. We got photo cam. Or video cam, sorry. Now, video cam, it's an evidence item. It can give you ghost orbs. Very nice, very useful. So that is already like makes it a good item. It also has a few other uses besides just giving the item that I think make it pretty fun and pretty unique. Which is that you can place them in the house, and then when a hunt starts, you can use them to safely observe the ghost during a hunt, which allows you to do like a speed test on the passive behavior of the ghost. And this allows you to see if it's a Hantu or not, if you observe if it's faster or slower, depending on if it's high or low temperatures. And you can detect a revenant. If it's not chasing anyone, a revenant will be much, much slower, very visibly slower than any other ghost, which also gives it away. And then the third one is if your friend or someone is being chased from afar, the Jinn will be faster only when chasing someone from afar, though. Not when idly moving through the house, it won't be faster. So if in the start of a chase you see the ghost zoom towards your friend and you know it's not a rev, then it might be a Jinn. So it can be used to figure out three ghosts, but extremely situational. I barely ever use it. I've only used it a few times in this way. In a team setting, I can see it be somewhat more useful if you basically always have someone outside the house, but in a solo setting, it's just a good evidence item. Just a solid B, my opinion. Just a good B. Nothing crazy, nothing that's gonna do any major shenanigans, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. So I'm gonna go with a B on that one. Let's see what people think. Okay, I think people agree. Let's end the poll. Here you go. We got a solid B on that one. 43%, 28% A. Yeah, I think maybe in my logic that it's used on only half of the ghosts, but on those half of the ghosts, it doesn't do anything, right? Like, that is kind of on, like, the writing book or something, or the camera, like the video cam. On the half of the ghosts where it's useful on, it just gives you the evidence, and that is all. But the spirit box on the half of the ghost that it's useful on is like a godsend and can allow you to completely track and follow the ghost in roaming situations, which can save you like so much of a headache, which I think makes the spirit box much more unique than something like the video cam, even though the video cam can be used on every ghost if you want to do speed tests. But yeah, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the motion sensor. Motion sensor is one of the first just kind of more very situational tools that is not going to be used a lot. However, I think that there's a few sensors. There's 3 sensors in the game. I think it's a pretty okay tool in the current meta. In the current meta, there's a lot of roaming going on, and honestly, if you're with a team and you place all 4 motion sensors in different rooms close to where you think the ghost room is, it can actually be used quite well to detect if the ghost is in a different room now. Now, the unfortunate part, this would be a better tool, much better, if it wasn't triggered by players as well. Because the motion sensor is triggered by players, it's not... It can become just like completely useless if it's a small room or something and someone is always walking over the motion sensor and just beep, 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 beep. Like, it's gonna not be useful. But if you use it more methodically, it can actually be used to track the roaming ghosts quite well. And it can also be used to confirm the ghost room. If you place a motion sensor during no evidence runs or something, I often place the motion sensor in the ghost room that I think it is, and then if I go to the truck and I see it being triggered like consistently, then I know it's probably the ghost room. So it has some uses, and it's not like turbo situational, but there's literally always better items. If you allow yourself to use all the items, there's always better items than the motion sensor. It's never going to be that, oh, I need this. We need to have the motion sensors. So it's not D, it's not absolute trash, but it's obviously not B, in my opinion at least. I'm gonna land the motion sensor in a solid C tier. Let's see what people say. I'm curious. What do people think? Oh, this is very, very, very much in agreement on the C here. We got 70% voting C. I think that is pretty settled. Like, some others are a little bit more controversial. I think motion sensor is a solid C. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is gonna be the thermo. Now, here I'm gonna have quite the hot take. I think the time and the prime of thermo is completely over. The thermo is one of the items that I often still use in almost every quest, but that's more out of a force of habit than it is because it is a good tool. Now, it used to be the absolute go-to tracking ghost of every single ghost. You would walk around the house. We would call these people thermo zombies because it was literally go into the house, room, and then you would find the ghost immediately. It would be like turbo powerful. But with the new temperature system, where the temperatures start, unprofessional at least, start very low and only go up slowly when you turn on the breaker and go down slowly again when the breaker turns off, it cannot be used to find the ghost room faster than, for example, the EMF can. Or just your ears or something, or a spirit box for that matter. The thermo is... I still use it quite often to try and follow roaming ghosts, but honestly, the more I thought about it when I was writing up my notes for this list, that is actually such a bad idea because the temperature lowers so slowly and it's so variable that if you're gonna use the thermo to follow a ghost, you're often wrong anyway. I really think now that I was thinking about that, I should just try and stop doing that and find other ways to track roaming ghosts that don't involve the thermo, because it's honestly just not the best tool for tracking roaming. Now, again, it used to be an absolute A or even S tier, probably S tier, honestly, absolutely, but it is just outclassed by every single item, or every single, like, it's just completely outclassed at this point with the new system. And on top of that, now this is the final nail in the coffin for me that lands it where I'm gonna put it. On top of this, the evidence it gives you, you don't even need this item for. Freezing can be acquired by just standing in the room and seeing your breath. You don't even need the thermo. Now, it's useful to find it earlier because it shows if it's like between 3 or 0 degrees, that will become freezing, but it's not going to give you breath, so you can find it slightly easier, but it's like, it's not, it's you can just ignore it and you can just use your breath instead. So for me, I can't say B. I have to go with C tier. It's one of the worst evidence items right now. It is barely useful for finding the ghost room, and it is like people that are still hanging on to the thermo, me included, honestly, are kind of nerfing themselves and should just try to stop using the thermo and find other ways to track the ghost. So I'm gonna land at C, and I'm really curious what people think. Let's see. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, still a lot of people hanging on to the thermo, which I can absolutely see that. I just think that the more I think about it, the less useful the thermo becomes. And it feels very good to use because it's just like instant feedback. You feel like you're doing something at all times when you're like, okay, let's track the ghost. And then you hold it in a different room and you get a 10. You go like, okay, probably not there, but I still don't know because the ghost might have just gotten in that room and might just be lowering the temps right now. Okay, different room. Okay, 8. I don't know if that, like, it just kind of debates you, in my opinion. So I'm gonna, I think that is a C for me. But yeah, we disagree. This has been a lot more disagreements than we did for the ghost tier list. Now, and this is also more subjective, I think. The ghost tier list was, in my opinion, more objective than you can make an item tier list, unless you just go every equipment, every single evidence item, A tier, only a few S tier, and every single other item is below that, because technically you always need to figure out the ghost. But we've already showed you, I've showed you many times you can do no evidence runs, so you don't necessarily need the equipment items. But yeah, let's move on to the lighter. Now I just put this on here because it's an item, but I mean, I guess you could say that it pretty much enables the motion or the smudge stick and the candle. So in that sense, it's kind of required if you want to use those, but that would just be kind of a weird way of grading this. I know it's going to be pretty rude. There's not much to say about the lighter. The only thing you can say about the lighter is that it can create candles, because some houses have candles in them. So you could pick up the lighter, go into the house, grab one of the house candles, and then you have a candle. But then you have a candle, and candle is A tier. So yeah, that's kind of cheating in my opinion. So I think, I mean, you could say C tier, but it would just kind of be arbitrary. I'm going to put it in D tier. Just on its own, it's nothing. It's like it provides no light. It's just a D. I know that's kind of rude because it's required for the other items that are good, but come on now, it's a freaking lighter. Are people trolling? You guys, it's fucking S tier. Shut up. Get out of here. You pieces of garbage. Okay, dude. We need it. All right. Well, I think we all agree that this is a D tier item. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Crucifix. Another safety item that I think is very useful. It can be very useful as a safeguard. I think the crucifix is unique or compared to the smudge stick, because it can be used as kind of a set it and forget it kind of approach, where you at the start of the quest bring in the crucifixes, place them in the ghost room, and then you don't have to pay attention to your sanity at all anymore until you see, well, unless you get unlucky and the ghost roams out of the room and then hunts from somewhere else. But we've all been there and it sucks. But let's say it doesn't happen. I mean, you did get the correct ghost room. And the ghost room is not too big, because big rooms completely make the crucifix unusable. But let's say that you're in a situation where you can just place 2 crucifixes, stop 4 hunts. You don't have to pay any attention on your sanity or your safety, for that matter, until you see one of the crucifix charges be used. Then you can decide to either take a pill or just stick around, because lower sanity means more activity. So you can stop some hunts with the crucifix and then get more activity, hopefully. Because the lower, again, sanity, the better, or the more activity you're gonna get. And it can also sometimes be used to detect banshees, because the banshees have a double range of being stopped by the crucifix. So if you place the crucifix on purpose in bad spots and it's still very reliable at stopping the ghost, then you're probably dealing with a banshee. This can sometimes be useful on no evidence runs, but it's not like Wraith, where you immediately know. It's more of a lucky thing, more of a chance thing. Now it only has 4 uses, because you have 2 and both have 2 uses, so it's not like the candle where you can just prevent hunts forever. Then it would be stronger, but it is, and it is completely useless in large rooms, which is kind of unfortunate. And of course, it's also used for one objective, so same as the candle, so it can give you some money. I'm gonna go with a solid B tier. Good item, especially just set it and forget it. I think that's very nice about the Crucifix, but it's not A. It's not an A tier item. It's just a B. It's a good item, though. It's like the first, well, I guess besides the candle, the first item that goes above C. That's not an equipment item. So let's see what people think. Ooh, interesting. People are saying A on this one. Oops. That is surprising, honestly. I wouldn't think that. Because in my, let me quickly copy paste this. Like, I don't know. I can't put it in A. Or people saying A on this one, sorry, not C. I can't put this in A. Just the fact that it's limited uses and it doesn't have, like, I can't really spoil. I'm not gonna spoil stuff in the future, but it doesn't have that many other purposes. It's just stopping hunts, and that's all. And you can use it to detect the banshee, I guess. And in large rooms, it's completely useless. So it's just a little bit too situational with too few purposes to put it in A tier for me. No, thank you for the 10 months. Thank you. Alrighty, let's move on to the next item. The Paramic. Now, you guys are gonna troll me. I already know, but this is just absolute. I should probably make an extra tier. Paramic, absolute garbage, trash, never used tier, because the Paramic is the worst item in the game. Worse than the lighter. I would rather have only a lighter in a quest than only a Paramic. I guess technically not, because in that scenario, the Paramic could be more useful. But it is pretty much absolutely pointless because a few things. First of all, I know there's people out. First of all, I know there's people out there that swear by the Paramic. I'm sorry for insulting you. I'm sorry for saying this, but it's just bad. And maybe it'll change. Maybe it'll change because they're actually working on the Paramic. They're reworking the Paramic. So I hope the Paramic is going to be one of those items that is going to go from complete trash to absolute S tier when the new patch comes out. But as it stands, it is trash. You can hear further than the Paramic, which is one of the main things why this is so bad. When you hear a sound, you'll hear it much earlier than the Paramic can even detect it. The only thing the Paramic can detect slightly further than you most of the time is like stomps on the floor. But that ties into the next main issue, that you can only detect sounds for about 1 to 2 seconds. It's extremely short. And on top of that, if you move, the Paramic updates extremely slow. So if you move it quickly to try and figure out, oh, I just heard a noise. Where was it coming from? You'll move past, there's 2 chats. Oh, sorry. Sorry. If you move, I don't want to spoil don't want to spoil the vote yet. But if you move past the thing where the sound is coming from, then it'll pick it up, and then you'll move past, and then it'll give you the reading. So it'll be delayed, and it'll go, and you'll go like, oh, so the thing is over there. No, but it was actually somewhere in the middle, but you just moved too quickly, and you moved over it. And the only times that I've personally tried to use the Paramic, it was more of a detriment than it was an actual useful tool. I know, again, there's people swearing by the Paramic, and I would love to know why, because I will never understand it. It is just so utter trash, and I can't wait to see it be completely reworked. Because right now, it's just not useful. And it doesn't do anything besides detecting sounds, which if you want to detect sounds, just turn up your volume and you're done. So yeah, I know chat might troll me on this one. Let's see what chat thinks. Oh boy, I'm glad most people were serious on this one. Look at this vote. What in the heck, man? S tier or D tier? Okay, guys, but yeah, I think all S tier voters are kind of D tier voters, but just it's like so bad that it's good again, kind of. I think that's what people think. But yeah, let's move on to my absolute favorite item. The photo cam is such a wonderful item. It is one of my other starting items. Same with the Paramic. Same with the EMF. My starting build is strong flashlight, photo cam, EMF. I think the photo cam is a very versatile tool that gives this game. It is honestly one of the most skill-based things in this game, in my opinion, besides just the main gameplay, figuring out the ghost. It's kind of a different game in the game itself. You have the one game where you have to stay alive and figure out the ghost, and then the other game is getting good photos, which is honestly like a completely different skill set. in my opinion, that is very fun to learn and very rewarding to learn because it gives you so much money. The photo cam can give you up to 40, which can be multiplied by 3, up to 120 money every single quest on a small map. On a small map, the maximum money you can get is 280 if you're playing solo. So that is almost half of all the money is earned purely off of this item. It is so good. So it is the single best money-making tool in the game. It gives you something to like completely master and like an extra skill ceiling to the game. And then, so let's talk about the actual uses of it. So of course you can take photos, which gives you money. You can also take fingerprints photos without having a UV light. So you can kind of take over the UV. You kind of have a built-in UV. Now, obviously, you only have 10 photo slots, and you only have 15 total photos. But if you wanted to, you could totally take like one photo, waste one photo on a door you know the ghost touched, and figure out fingerprints that way. And then you can either decide to bring the UV or just ditch the UV because you know it's not going to be fingerprints. I often use it in that way if I want to go quicker. Another thing it can do is phantom detection. If you take a photo of a phantom, it'll disappear and it won't show up on the photo. So you can, one of the 14 ghosts is completely defeated by the photo cam if it decides to do a ghost event. And then another thing it can do is that it's similar to the UV light, can be used in combination with the salt to detect footsteps. If you place a salt and the ghost stepped in the salt and it starts making stomp noises, then you can take a photo of the area of the stomp noises. And if it in the book reads footstep, that means it cannot be a wraith. If it doesn't read footsteps, that means it is a wraith. If you took the photo correctly, if you took it of the footsteps. Which means that it's kind of just the UV light, but then much better. It's also required for the ghost photo objective. It's just such a good item. It's so good. It's my absolute favorite item, and I'm putting an S tier. It's just so good. It's so good. So let's see what people think. I'm curious to know. What are we thinking? Oh boy, that is an absolute S tier item. Let's go. Yeah, that is just, it's so good. It's so good. I don't know what else to say. I've already explained all the things. I love it. And let me know what you think. Let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the salt. Salt is honestly underrated, in my opinion. I think salt is good. It doesn't have that many uses, but it is useful for one very specific purpose that is often overlooked. That you can... Of course, let's start with the basic uses. You can place it in the ghost room and get footsteps, which allows you to figure out if it's a wraith or not. That's the like go-to thing, what everyone knows about. Again, you can expand this. You can use it to detect the ghost room, because if you place salt in a room and the ghost steps in, the ghost will almost only step in salt if it's in the ghost room. It's very, very kind of tedious and frustrating, but also useful that way. Because you have very limited uses, so I wouldn't recommend using the salt in this way, but you could technically do it if you wanted to. If you had no other option, you could use salt that way, but I don't really think it's not a tracking tool, and it's not a real good ghost detection tool, but it can be used that way. But I think that the main purpose of the salt is that if you place it in the room and the ghost starts doing footsteps, every single stomp and every single green UV footstep you can show with the UV light, every single one of those you can take a unique photo of, which can allow you to basically fill up your book instantly. You can spam photos by rotating your items. You can prevent the cooldown for the photo cam, by the way, in case you didn't know, and just spam photos and fill up your book instantly. It's very useful that way. Now, obviously, that still requires the photo cam, and it doesn't have any other purposes beside Wraith, so I might have debated people in going B tier on this one. I still think it's a C tier, but it's honestly underrated in my opinion. It's a good item, but I can't put this next to these items. Look at that. It is a C tier, but it is pretty good in my opinion. So let's see what people think. I'm very curious to know. Let's see. Oh yeah, and it's especially useful if you don't have the Ouija board, because if you don't have the Ouija board, you can't really fill up the book that easily. So let's see. Okay, interesting. People did, in fact, go with B tier on this one. I don't think it's B, guys. I don't think it's B. It's a solid C. It's a high C. It's honestly better than the. It's honestly better than the thermo, but it's not. It's not a. Almost. I don't really. It's not a B. It's not a B. It's good though, but it's not a B. Okay. I see that my screen goes like, or black and it flashes black. I don't know why it does that, but anyway. Let's move on to Sanity pills. Sanity pills, a very, very good item. They keep you alive. That's my notes say. They keep you alive. I agree, notes. Very, very useful in that fact. They keep you alive. Honestly, this one kind of has two tiers in my opinion. One for solo and one for multiplayer. In solo, Sanity pills are so incredibly strong that they kind of are passive candles. You could legitimately keep yourself alive forever if you keep topping off with a sanity pill if you're playing solo. Because in solo play, first of all sanity pills are yours. You have 4 to use. And on top of that, your sanity drains slower in solo play. So you get more value out of every single sanity pill. This makes them so useful. Like, turbo strong in solo play. But in multiplayer, I barely ever get to really solidly put, like, in solo play, you can often go, okay, I'm in hunting range, let's go above hunting range and continue the quest. In multiplayer, it's usually, okay, we're in hunting range now, let's all take 1 pill, and then you have like 3 minutes of safety again, and then the ghost starts hunting again. So it can give you those few extra minutes, but it doesn't do the same thing that it does in solo play, where you can just keep putting yourself complete safety and keeping yourself, like, giving yourself so much more time. So I think I'm gonna put it where I'm gonna put it. I think it's 1 tier lower if you're playing multiplayer, but I'm gonna put it A. It's just like in solo play, this is like the candle. It can just keep you alive forever if you wanted to. If you look at my games, I barely ever use up all the sanity pills because I want to be hunted. It's just fun to be hunted. It's intense. But really, if you wanted to, and you manage your sanity correctly in solo play, you can just prevent hunts forever by by using your sanity pills correctly. And if you don't just spam the Ouija board, like, for some reason. So yeah, I think it's A tier in solo play. Let's see what people think, though. I'm curious. What is... Ooh, interesting. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that I'm talking about... that I'm like talking in the middle of the vote, but S tier. It's not S tier. Like, this would be more S tier than like, this would make more sense than this. I would put the candles in S tier before I would put sanity pills in S tier, especially in multiplayer. In multiplayer, it's a lot less. Like, when I play multiplayer, I often feel, man, sanity pills are so weak. Like, once you get to that hunting range, it feels kind of like, shit, we can't really do anything about this anymore. We need to wrap this one up. So yeah. And I would put it legitimately B tier for multiplayer. I think the crucifixes are more useful in multiplayer than sanity pills are. So yeah, let's move on to the next item, though, which is the infrared light sensor. Infrared light sensor. Now, pretty trash. Oh, wait, is someone gonna do the vote? There we go. Pretty trash item. But it does have some uses, and I just wanted to go over the uses here, because I think people think this item has completely no uses whatsoever, and you would always use the motion sensor. Now, some of these things you can also do with the motion sensor, but the infrared light sensor is technically better at it, because it gives this, like, bright light. There's 2 things that you can do with the infrared light sensor. The first one is that you can do a very janky speed test. You can place 2 in a long hallway at a set distance from each other, and then you can walk yourself past the first one and then count how long it takes you to get to the second one. Then you know how long your player character would take between those, which is pretty much the same speed the ghost would take, or the same time the ghost would take between those. So if you then get a hunt to happen, you see the first being triggered and then the second one being triggered much faster, then you have done a correct speed test and you know you're dealing with a Jinn or a Hantu or a Revenant. based on what other evidence you have then. But that is such a specific use that it barely is ever useful, but I just wanted to share that because it could be useful, or could just be a fun thing to know. And then another thing, which I think is a very fun thing, is that you could technically use it to canonically talk to the dead. What you can do is you can place two infrared light sensors, one on the left, one on the right, and then you can ask yes or no questions to your dead teammates and mark one of the infrared light sensors as yes and the other one as no. And if a dead player walks in front of the infrared light sensor, it will actually go off. So you can use this to communicate with your dead teammates, which I think is really fun. It's completely not useful, especially if you're using like Discord, and you could do the same with motion sensors, because motion sensors are also triggered by dead players. But it's just a fun little thing that you might not have thought about. Someone said that a while back in my comment section, and I found it a really interesting thing, and I've kept it in mind ever since. And there was another thing in the past that made it kind of useful, is that which I actually used them quite often in that scenario, you could glitch them. You could place them, and then you could trigger them, and then pick them up and put them in your inventory, and then when you went back to the item, they would be turned on forever. They would be glitched out, and the light would stay on forever, which could actually be, you could use it then as like a permanent light source. It wouldn't be like a candle where it would go out. It would just stay on forever. The light wasn't very bright, but it was still fun to kind of create a disco. I've done disco runs where you just put so much light in the ghost room that it's, oh, that doesn't, yeah, I'm talking about, yeah, it doesn't work anymore. That's the point, but it used to be a thing. That's what I'm saying. It used to be a thing, which was fun, but no longer. They patched that, so they removed another use of an already useless item. I tried to just explain what you can do with it. It's still absolute trash. It's still D tier, but there are some very specific scenarios in which you want to use it. You could impress your friends by making use of the infrared light sensor one time, but it's gonna be only one time because they're never really useful. So yeah, I almost hope that I've debated people into voting C on this. That would be funny. Ah, shit, I didn't manage to convince anyone. I almost had you. No, not quite. People still think big fat dookie tier. Not this time. Yeah, it's not useful, but it's, well, not, it's just a trash item, but it's fun. It has some uses, and I think that from what we've seen on the item or the equipments for the next update, is that they're combining the motion sensor and infrared light sensor, which I think is actually cool. But because that basically puts the uses that I just explained you of the infrared light sensor on the motion sensor as well, on top of the motion sensor being more reliable and being able to be detected in the truck, because the infrared light sensor don't do that. But yeah, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the Smudge Sticks. Smudge Sticks, very useful item with actually quite a lot of like other uses. Now it's not an evidence item, so it won't give you any of the 6 evidence types, or 7 soon. There's going to be another evidence type. But it's very useful for 3 objectives. You have repel the ghost, smudge the ghost or cleanse the ghost's area around the ghost, and you have escape the ghost, which you can also do because one of the abilities, the smudge stick has basically 2 active uses. You have the one where you use it in the ghost when it's passive, when it's in its ghost room, just walking around, throwing items, stuff like that. And then the other one is where you use it in an active chase during a hunt. The first one will prevent the ghost, if you cleanse the ghost room, it will prevent the ghost from hunting for 1.5 minutes against any ghost except the spirit. Against the spirit, it will be disabled for 3 minutes, which is a use. You can use it to detect if the ghost is a spirit or not. If it doesn't hunt a long time after you use a smudge stick. And that actually has an extra use case. What's very nice about the smudge stick is that you can prevent hunts. Now, why is that so nice? It's because sometimes you are dealing with these very pesky ghosts that don't want to do anything whatsoever, and they will only really start doing something once your sanity is super low, because the lower your sanity, the more active the ghosts become. So what you can do is you can have your sanity be basically 0, and then smudge the ghost room, give yourself a safe period of 1.5 minutes where it won't be able to hunt, but you're still low sanity, so it can still do a lot of things, which can trigger ghost events that you need for the ghost photo or the objective for ghost events. So it's pretty useful in a lot of the objectives. It's like the ultimate objective item, in my opinion, because it's like useful in 5 different objectives, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, it's very useful in that way. There's also a myth or truth. I'm not entirely sure that smudge sticks in general increase activity when used in the ghost room. Or near the ghost. I'm not entirely sure. It's never been proven or disproven. I sometimes feel that way, but I wonder if it's just confirmation bias, because when you're lower sanity, you won't be hunted. You can use the smudge stick to keep yourself at low sanity safely, and then you'll get more activity because you're low sanity. I wonder if it's just because of the low sanity, and not because of the smudge stick itself. I'm not entirely sure. Let me check. Okay, yeah, there's also another thing, which is that you can use it to lock the Ure, which is a ghost type, in a room. You can use it on a Ure, and the weakness is that it will be prevented from roaming, which has never been useful in my entire 1,000 hours of playing this game, but it's something. It's something to know and maybe try one time. But yeah, I think there's so many uses to the smudge stick, and on top of it being safe, sadly it only has 4 uses, but they're just so fun. They're one of those tools that pros can use to do all kinds of just crazy shenanigans during a hunt. It's really fun. Safety tool. Now, of course, you have to bring in 2 items to make them work. You need both the lighter and the smudge stick itself. So they take, and then if you also want the flashlight, you're basically full in inventory. But they're just so useful. I'm putting in solid A tier. It's not an S tier. It's not like it's gonna. I mean, you could possibly argue S tier because it's just so good at keeping you safe. But the fact that it needs 2 inventory items, only has 4 uses, and it's like, and you want to use it so much, like you can't do all of the things that the smudge sticks can do with only 4 of them. But yeah, it's definitely very useful. One more thing I want to talk about is not really impacting the smudge stick ranking, but I just quickly wanted to talk about how you use them. I've made it, well, I guess I can just link to the video. I've made a video on how you use smudge sticks. They're actually kind of counterintuitive to how you use them. And I'll link that right here if you want to know exactly how to use smudge sticks. And if it's not there, you can tell me in the description or in the comments, and I'll add the link. But yeah, let's see what chat thinks on this one. Curious. What are we thinking? Oh, I closed it. I saw A tier. Frick. I closed it. No, I clicked on the wrong thing. Pull again. I closed this poll immediately. Wait, I can open my other thing. Let me see. I can open up my, No, I can't. I closed it right away for everyone. Okay, can we do it again? Oh, it was A tier? Okay, A tier, 53% with 306 votes. What was the second one? What was the second tier? Was it S? S tier, 33% with 188 votes. Okay, so A tier, 53%, S tier, 33%, and B with 12%. Thank you guys for, sorry, I clicked that. I clicked that away really quickly. So yeah, some people were convinced S tier. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it's so useful. It's very useful. And I think it belongs on the same ranking as candles. Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the head cams. Now, talking from solo, D. You can't use them in solo. I'm not gonna rank them D though because of that. Because not all people play solo, and they are pretty good. They're just like video cams kind of when playing in multiplayer. Why would you use a head cam over a video cam, and when would you use a head cam over a video cam, or the other way around? It can be useful because 2 things. First of all, it doesn't take up an inventory slot, so you can place it, you can have it in your inventory, or you can put it on, and then you have an extra cam that will sometimes be in the ghost room, and if you coordinate well, it can always be in the ghost room. You can have one dedicated person that sticks around when everyone else goes back to the truck to get some evidence items. You can then use the face cam to check the orb, so it can actually be pretty useful in that way in a multiplayer setting if you're well coordinated. And another use case where it's actually very useful is large rooms, especially prison A and B block. In prison A and B block, if you have a cell ghost where it will be in the cells, then you have to place like a bazillion cams to have full coverage of all the cells. So what you instead can do is get someone to just slowly walk past the all of the cells, looking at the cells, just slowly strafe past, and then one person looking at the camera feed, and you'll be able to just detect all of the cells at once without having to pick up a cam. I think you can also hold a cam on a tripod, which kind of does the same thing, but it's a bit more janky and it goes up and down and it's kind of hard to watch on the video feed. So head cams are more useful in that scenario. But overall, they're absolutely not as versatile as a video cam is. And you can't use them in solo at all, so I can't warrant putting them next to video cams. I have to put them one tier lower, but just kind of because I can't put them on the same tier, but they're still good. They're absolutely not D tier. They're still just evidence items. They give you an evidence piece, and they can be sometimes more useful in very specific scenarios, but almost always I would go for a video cam. Let's see what chat thinks, though. I'm not gonna click it away this time. All right, here we go. We got C tier on that as well. So yeah, C and D tier was kind of the vote. I agree. I think it's a C. I think that it's just a little worse than the video cam, and in solo it's completely useless, but that doesn't mean it's a completely useless item. Let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Glowsticks. Glowsticks can be used for fingerprints and footsteps, similar to the did I not end the poll? Sorry. It can be used for fingerprints and footsteps, similar to the UV light. However, it does not have the benefit of the UV light that it can be used as a proper light source. There's technically a glitch where you can like look past the top of the glow stick and then you can see very far because of the way lighting works in this game, but that also might change, and it's still very, very janky to use in that way. It's why would you use it for light? It's just not a light source. It doesn't provide any useful light, and it is just in every way outclassed by the UV light. I think this is a very easy C tier. It's an evidence item. It gives you evidence, but you would always use the UV light instead of the glow stick. So I think this is gonna be a quick one. Let's see what chat thinks. Yeah, I think we're in agreement on this one. It's just C. It's an evidence item, but you would always use this one instead. Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is gonna be the sound sensor. Now, sound sensors, some people I know really use sound sensors over even motion sensors. I just cannot really, I just can't really see that myself. The range, they are unique. Like, the nice thing about sound sensors is that they're more unique than compared to the motion sensor than the infrared light sensor is in comparison to the motion sensor. But their range of, like, when you place a sound sensor, you can see it on the map in the truck. You can see the range of the sound sensor where it detects sound. It is huge. It will often be much bigger than the room that you're trying to detect. So if something spikes on the sound sensor, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the room. If you want to play multiple, they'll all be overlapping. It becomes chaos. They're not that useful for tracking in that way because, first of all, the ghost also has to do something in the room for it to even go off on the sound sensor. It has to step or make a throw an item or something. So it can be used for tracking, but it's a little bit too large, and you need ghost activity to make it work, which I think doesn't. It's not a C. It's better than the infrared light sensor, but it's still a D tier in my opinion. So yeah, I think it's good. Sometimes it has some other. It's more unique. Again, I like the sound sensors more than I like the infrared light sensors because they do something else, and they're also better than the Paramic. But let's see what chat thinks though. Let's see. Yeah, I think I see a very strong agreement here. We got a D going, 3D with the 72%. Yeah, I think it's a solid D. Solid D. Alrighty, let's move on to the next item. We're reaching the end here, which this one, I mean, come on, easy fucking S tier. Who's gonna walk around without a strong flashlight? Get out of here. If you're even the flashlight dropping elite will put strong flashlight on S tier. Come on now. Who's gonna go in and walk around and do stuff, loop a ghost during a hunt? Who's gonna do all those things without the strong flashlight? Get out of here. Seeing is important. That's the first thing on my notes. Seeing is important. I agree. Especially during hunts, because during hunts, you can't even turn on room lights at all. So if you get in, and the ghost will turn off the light of the room that it's in during a hunt for that duration, and then if it leaves that room, it'll turn on or blink again, and then at the end of the hunt, all lights will go off, so then you're in complete darkness if you don't have a flashlight. So yeah, if you want to run from the ghost, then not having the strong flashlight is makes it extremely difficult for no reason. The only annoying factor is that it takes up an inventory slot, kind of. It's very strong, but the only annoying thing is that it takes up, that you need it, kind of, because it would be very useful if it was just a passive thing that you could just turn on, like the shoulder, like a shoulder lamp or something. But no, you need to carry it around. However, what you can do, and what I often do, sometimes people ask me, why do I do it? Why do I drop my flashlight at the ghost room when I'm going back to the truck? Well, for that exact purpose. I don't need light to walk to the door and then go outside, because outside you can already see, go to the truck, get items, and go back. You can also turn on lights on your way back or on your way to the ghost room, so you don't need that strong flashlight for your way back and forth. And then you can bring an extra item, which instead of 2 items, you'll be able to bring 3 items, which I think is like something that every pro should do. Drop your flashlight in the ghost room, grab an extra item, especially when playing solo, can really speed up your backs going back to the truck. So yeah, absolute S tier. No, I can't be persuaded. Let's see what chat thinks. Okay, that is very solid. Very much an S tier indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolute S tier. And very obvious. Alrighty, let's move on to the next item, which kind of controversial putting this one in S. This one's D. Who the fuck uses this shit? Get out of here. Fuck off, man. Who's gonna use the normal flashlight? I'm just assuming here that you have access to all the items. Why would you use the weak garbage flashlight when literally everyone that has played this game for like 2 hours has access to the strong flashlight? Come on, just no, I can't. Now, of course, if you really, if it was life or death and you had flashlight, this one, or nothing at all, I mean, I guess you could bring it up. But since there's just like an objective, completely better in every way version, there is no reason to ever use this, and it's gonna be D tier, and I can't be convinced. So let's see what chat thinks. Let's see if chat agrees. Yes. Yes, we do. They do. Absolute D tier. Like, why would you ever use it? Come on now. Alrighty, very nice. Let's go to the next one, and I'm very excited for the last one here. We got the tripod, which tripod is in a similar situation to the lighter, that it kind of doesn't do anything on its own. However, in my opinion, the thing that the tripod provides to the only use case, which is putting a camera on it, is actually quite significant. You will have a hard time placing a cam in a perfect way, which a perfect way is basically placing the cam in such a way that it'll cover the entire room with certainty. If you then go back to the truck and you check for orbs, you know either there's orbs or there won't be orbs. If you don't use a tripod, you might have to place 2 cams, or you might have to move them around because you won't be able to cover the entire room because you want to place them kind of high up. So I think that value is actually like allowing you to place a cam almost every way, in like a perfect way every time, is actually quite useful, which, but that's the only purpose. It doesn't do anything by itself. I mean, you can do a tripod, which is, I mean, come on now, a tripod, S tier. No, tripod, if you don't know about tripod, the thing that people are posting here in chat, there's one very old video about me convincing the random people in the public lobby that I was playing with that you have to use salt by placing it under the 3 legs of the tripod. and they were, and I just kept holding on that was how you need to use it, and it was hilarious. So yeah, that's why that is still a meme to this day. But it's not. It's a C tier in my opinion. It's not D because the value it provides to the cam is actually very like you'll use them every time. But obviously it's nothing on its own. So it's a C tier, and I'm curious to see what people in chat. Ooh, interesting. People in chat actually going even higher on this. Interesting. So again, I put this one above the lighter because on its own both are useless, but the tripod provide I guess you could say that the value, I guess if you completely go off of that, you can't consider the candle and the smudge stick in any other scenario than having a lighter. Whereas the cam on its own can be used without a tripod, which I guess kind of makes the tripod weaker, you could say, but in my opinion, it kind of gives this two use cases, one with and one without the tripod. And the one with the tripod is just so much better. But you could also say that the candle and the smudge sticks are nothing without the lighter. So yeah, justice for the lighter. I guess we could bring it up to C tier, but like on its own, I guess you could. Okay then. Okay, we'll put the lighter in C tier. I agree. I guess if that's the logic, then I have to be consistent. I have to be consistent. If my logic is that the value it provides to another item is good enough for it to be C tier, then lighter also has to be C tier, I guess. But come on its own, it's just like a non-factor. It could almost be removed from this list. But yeah, let's move on to the final item, which is the Ouija board. Now, of course, that's not an equipment, but it's my list. And if I want to put the Ouija board on the items list, then I'm putting it on the items list because I can't not put my boy on the items list. This is one of my favorite, together with the photo cam, this is my favorite item in this game. You have so much control over the game and the pace of the game. If you find this thing, first of all, you can find the ghost room immediately by asking, very important to those that are still spreading this stupid myth for some reason, where are you? And what's your favorite room are the same question. DK has said this. I have proven it. Stop spreading this myth. It's very annoying. If you want to see it be proven and you still don't believe it, watch this video up here. I have proven this several times, but there you go. There's a video if you still don't believe it. But that out of the way, that has nothing to do with the item itself. You can find the ghost room. Again, you can find the ghost room very easily, or just where the ghost is. It doesn't give you the ghost room, by the way. It gives you the location of the ghost always, because the ghost room is not like something you can acquire from the Ouija board with any question whatsoever. You can only figure out where the ghost is at the moment, which is usually where the ghost room is. Let me see. It can be used to detect a demon. If you get a correct question, so if your question succeeds and you drop by 10%, you know it's not a demon, because every ghost will do that except the demon. The demon will not drop your sanity on a successful question. However, it will drop your sanity on a non-successful question on every single ghost. Very often a mistake that new players make, which is reasonably so, because in the book it's kind of confusing. But if you fail a question, it will also drop your sanity against a demon. So make sure that you succeed your question to rule out demon or not. Another use that I think is amazing is that it can be used to fill up your photo book really quickly. You can fill up to 10 photos so that you can leave when you're like at the end of the game. Oftentimes you'll just fill up the book really quickly with Ouija board photos, which just gives you so much money really quickly, and it's very nice in that way. You don't have to stick around, be in danger. You can just place it next to the door and then place it like with your back facing the outside, and then you can ask questions, take photos, and then as soon as the ghost hunts, you can just back up and get out of the house, and you'll be safe. You won't be locked in with the ghost if you do it correctly. And another little trick that you can do is that when you ask a question and it succeeds, every single player in your team can take a photo of that single interaction. So you can get 4 photos out of 1 successful question, which is very nice. Another thing that people can consider a detriment, but I consider a huge benefit, is that it gives you control over your sanity. Sometimes dropping your sanity is so painful because you just have to sit there and wait and do nothing. and just wait for your sanity to drop. But with the Ouija board, you can just do whatever. You have full control over dropping your sanity. And then with the pills, you can bring it back up. With the pills on the Ouija board, you can just put your sanity wherever you want. And it's very nice. It allows you to speed up the quest, not having to waste time. You can get hunts really easily, do objectives, like hunt objectives really easily. It's just such a good item. I mean, it's also a very fun item that I think should be expanded upon. I feel like there should be more questions you can ask. The yes or no things would be cool. I really hope they'll expand on it in the future. This is a absolute S tier for me. I know it has so many different uses. It's so useful in like pacing. The downsides are, of course, that you don't have it every quest, which I guess you could say is a huge detractor, that you only not even half of the time have this thing. But I mean, when you do, that is when it becomes super, super strong. And another thing is that it's sometimes hard to find on large maps, for example. You often won't even find it, even if it is there, unless it's in the obvious spot. So those are two obvious, like very annoying things about it. But when you have it, it just gives you full control over your game and allows you to control the pacing, which I think is just so amazing as a like expert player that plays this game so much. So yeah, this is my ranking. Now again, I moved this one from D to C for consistency. Do you agree? I think so let's do a little summary. Or first of all, let's see what chat thinks on this. Sorry. I think chat definitely agrees on this one. Saying S tier as well. Absolutely, in my opinion. So yeah, S or A, and then a few low rankings, but seems pretty obvious. Let me quickly turn on. There you go. So that is that. And then let's do a quick summary. I think there's a few things here that you could argue are out of place. I think the spirit box might be a little bit overrated in this list. I just think that roaming factor is so huge, but then again, you can only use it on half of the go, so you could bump this one down. I could be convinced by that, but I think I'm still more comfortable having it in S tier. Smudge sticks are very good. All these items here are very good. Don't get me wrong. That's why they're in A tier. But I just think they fall a little bit short on, like, when you can make use of these. I mean, strong flashlight kind of being a no-brainer. But they're just so good. And then another item that I guess people could say, the thermo, I think people might not always agree with. I think people might put the thermo higher, or might put the UV higher if you're one of those maniacs that uses the UV as a light source, or I could see people putting the Crucifix a little higher. But I think overall, this kind of ranks especially the relative ranking. I've tried to make the relative ranking as solid as possible, where the position the items are in comparison to each other kind of makes sense, in my opinion. That was another important factor for me. So I hope this was enjoyable. I know this was very long, and I also explained so much about the items. But again, that is exactly why I wanted to do this, because I want to record all my knowledge so that I don't have to, like, remember this forever. Now I have stored all of this item knowledge into this one video where I could 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, I could go back and I would know what did Phasmophobia look like in its first year. And I think that's very valuable for me personally. I really love keeping things and keeping, like, the memories around. And I think that's just a nice thing to have. So that's why I wanted to really get this tier list before the huge update comes. The update is obviously going to change things. I can't wait to redo this when the Paramic is an S tier item, but now it's trash. But yeah. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you agree, disagree with in the comments down below. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike, dislike it. And if you want to join the lovely game sharing chat, you can join us over at twitch.tv/Insym every single day at 7 p.m. Central European Time. Thank you very much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. Nice.